Good morning, everyone. Microphone check. Microphone check. Microphone check. Mic check. Oh, there we go. All right. Zoom had to wake up for a second. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Mic check, now that I know that that's working. Good. All right. Good morning, SSFTG family. Hope you all had a chance to rest up and get ready for the day ahead. As per the usual, make sure to read through the morning prep PDF on the right side of the screen there. Very important to go through and understand everything that is inside there. Hey, Brad, how's it going? Laddie, good morning. Everybody else so far, as you're rolling in, good morning. Welcome to Friday. Just a quick note for you all before we jump on in today. If you're watching on the YouTube side of things, the stream does have between like a 5 and 30 second delay, which will definitely impact the timeliness of what I may be talking about at any given moment. And then, of course, I just want to take a second, like we do every day, to thank all of our new members, subscribers, Academy students, VIPs, and everyone in between. Welcome on board. I'm super excited to have you all with us. And yeah, if you aren't part of the SSFTG family yet, there's a ton of different ways to join up. The easiest way is on YouTube as a member with the join button below the stream. It gets you in the chat room and the YouTube community boards, stock and crypto chart posts. And a bit more behind the scenes in what's going on. Of course, if you want to understand how we do everything and the overall approach and all that fun stuff, you can check out the Day Trading Academy along with everything else that we have waiting for you over at ssftg.com. So whether you're here for the first time or the 1000th, good morning, welcome. I hope you're all ready to rock and roll alongside me this morning on these crazy markets of ours. Well, fingers crossed, crazy markets. Volatility's been kind of good lately. Let's take a look at some news, take a look at some charts, see what's all going on for today as we roll into the last day of the week. Don't forget to grab your morning DP levels. Those are posted for you every morning on the Major 7. NASDAQ has a big old crude euro Bitcoin and Ethereum. Whew, man, yesterday I was tripping all over the place. This morning we're on the right side. The news calendar looks super heavy. It's really not. It's a lot of the stuff that we get on Friday, the Michigan consumer expectations, the CFTC speculative net position stuff. All of that is, I mean, it's there and it will have an impact on the markets, but realistically, it's not probably going to do a whole lot. And the only news that we really had was retail sales at 8:30. That was forecasted at negative 0.2%. That's about it. So, as it stands, looking across the board here, let's take a look at some charts to see what's going on from that perspective. Obviously, the index markets just keep going up. There's no pullback on the index markets lately. We broke above the major highs in the 15,000s, kind of achieving a major objective with that. I mean, you could kind of tell the market's gunning for a major psychological level like 15K, especially when, you know, the last time they hit it, they rejected it to the tick. That's a little bit helpful in discerning that. So when we bounce off of that 15K the first time around so aggressively, even for a massive double top, now the next time they come back, what happened? It's like it wasn't even there. It's non-existent. So if there were sellers there, if these were sellers, or maybe these were buyers taking profit, I don't know. But whatever was in the way at 15,000 originally, that's not there anymore. Or at least not yet. The rising channel support seems to be the likely objective that traders are looking for. And if we put an upside target with that in mind, let's get this. Man, that fits nice. Get that across the highs. And you can see, I mean, we still have a decent amount of room left, all the way up until like the 15,200s, depending on when they get there. So there's a halfway decent amount of room. Now, it does appear as though there's a bit of a midline, which I think I can put in, what, 50%? Yeah, give or take 50%. I mean, it'd be plus or minus a little bit, but you can see there's some really nice support resistance around there too. So, I mean, from a structural perspective, if we're looking at this overall momentum to the upside, we've got the L5 that rolled all the way up, and usually after an L5, we're expecting an L2. They bounced at the L2, but then ended up going down into an L3, showing concern for the broken L1, which reversed the market back down into the 4, which then popped up to a new high. So we've got a lot of back and forth churniness going on in here, and obviously a lot of traders inside of that churn will have gotten stuck. Now that the market's made a new high, it's pretty obvious who the ones that got stuck were. Those would be the sellers. If we're looking at the overall move and kind of seeing how they want to progress forward in away from here. Come here. We had that original really nice pullback to the POC, then the market rolls back over and kind of creates this halfway decent pullback zone right around the negative 2 DP at 14,600. And they also create a bottom-weighted POC that rolls the market back up and, you know, pushes it back up towards the highs. So this kind of the thing, like where were the sellers stuck from? If we go from the bottom to the top, that would be the only one. Does it stand through? It still stands through. Okay, so if the sellers are in short, which, I mean, to be fair, that's a pretty... It's hard to imagine they didn't get any targets filled on the downside, but when they came back to the break-even point, again, there was really no resistance there, and now we're breaking through. The first pullback to that is likely going to be a break-even on all the shorts that are looking to now exit their shorts. It's no longer favorable, so time to jump ship. And that's right at around 15,000. Perfect pullback spot. As far as where we are structurally, though, we got a couple hundred points to go yet to the upside. As far as the S&P is concerned, similar situation. I mean, we've got that rising kind of channel-esque support cutting through here, but they just didn't hit it. They missed it on this whole pullback from the 12th to the 14th. Couldn't get it. And with a rotation up on the highs, we're finally breaking up to a new channel top, which is kind of sort of missing, kind of sort of not. It doesn't have anywhere near as far to go as we saw in the NASDAQ. There's a lot less room. Now, this could also be, if we migrate this a little bit lower, at least initially, the attempted blow off above the highs, right? Overshot on the highs, overextension on the lows, overcorrect. But in this case, they overshot the highs and undercorrected. Not very frequently you get an undershot. And that rotated it all the way back up to the highs. So, I mean, man, this thing has got some serious gumption to it here, at least. We've got to go across the highs, maybe? That doesn't really fit either. What about up here? I know it's a little worse for wear looking, but if we put that up on the high, that fits the top really, really nice. Unfortunately, we're also at the top, but, I mean, look at all the resistance inside here. I like that a lot more. I'm going to stick with that. So as far as the bull channel is concerned, it does, again, look like there's another midline. I'm sure if we add a 50%, we'll get a couple nice bounces inside there. Yeah, perfect. It's exactly what I wanted to hit is cancel. Let's try that again. There we go. So really, really nice support back and forth on the 50% level. Just getting some good bounces back and forth. Structurally similar to the NASDAQ, but the NASDAQ's got some room to go. Over on gold, gold is furthering its momentum to the upside out of this vindictive, choppy, sloppy, disgusting mess that I had before. If we look at the overall rotation from the bottom to the eventual top that they had before the pullback and break, we had the POC, which was right back inside there. That's where the market came back to. Allowed all the shorts to get out of break even, rotate back to a new high, cracking up into, for lack of better words, probably one of the most obvious spiking channels I think we've seen in a while, at least for now. If we're measuring off of the top, plop that down on the bottom. And they're hovering right around that zone of support. We'll see. I mean, things can obviously change, but at the moment, it's looking like a spiking channel attempt of a formation. And if we follow the volume all the way up to the highs, I doubt it's changed. It's been like, what, a week there? Yeah. It's 1758. So a lot of shorts are probably stuck from 1758 if they didn't get filled down here, and a lot of longs are just starting to creep into their targets. We'll see how they want to progress from there, but right now, spiking channel. On crude oil, continuing further to the upside and creeping back in towards the 82s. This initial V bottom that we had down here, especially from like 230 down to the low and then back up again, this really sharp pulse. That type of move usually is going to be looking for some form of a reversal, and obviously if we look and project the reversal up, we've got a nice resistance barrier there. But utilizing the further projection of a 200%, move it over so you can see it, is right here. And that's what the market's really having a very difficult time getting through. We are above it at the moment. So they've got a shot. Like, they could really get this thing going from here and, you know, maybe carry on a nice little ascending wedge or something along those lines. It's a bummer that it's way up at the top, but so far it seems like it hangs out at the highs, big flush, hangs out at the highs, big flush, hangs out at the highs. Kind of looking for that quick snap little pullback. Looks like a Renko chart. We'll see what they want to do, but crude oil is getting kind of interesting here and still going up. As far as the euro is concerned, yesterday we were talking about a full-blown reversal with an L1, 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 L1 reversal off of an L5 into an L2. And that L2, as we can see, is holding very nicely. Initially, there were some concerns, like, do you really want to be the one catching the falling knife? And then it put in a double bottom, and then it put in a triple bottom, and it made it a little bit easier for bulls to gain some confidence in that L2 for a cycle back to the upside. Either way, I mean, the bulls are trying to take this back, and if we look at the previous major structure cycles high, we've got it back here. They have obviously not broken that. We've broken the previous. That's what's also acting as support. So there's a lot of stuff going on here for the bulls to try to take it, and realistically, their upside objectives make sense around the 16,600s, 16,500, somewhere in between. At least back up to the highs. 16.3s. Over on Bitcoin, we've got a... I mean, we had that really, really nice, aggressive, but really nice flush that took out the lows on a lot of these swings. And when it rotated back up into a higher low, I'm not going to draw the volume on there because that's just going to mess things up. But there was a little bit of a transitional phase that the bulls are now breaking into a new high. Give me 1 second. All right, sorry about that. We're back. As far as the bullish continuation for Bitcoin is concerned, I mean, you know, before we were talking about how it's just not making any new lows. They finally got the trap, and then it goes screaming off to the highs again. What a shock, right? As far as this momentum higher, I mean, really all we have to work with is structure, and that last pullback was an L5. The L5 rotated off of an L2 perfectly. I mean, it's picture-perfect structure all the way up into the highs, where we're now bouncing off of a 1. It's following everything it needs to do to maintain the trend, and 60,000 is not too far away. And as we're creeping up into the 60,000s, we have to kind of reminisce about, wait a minute, the all-time highs are... Wait, they're not that far away. Over on Ethereum, similar situation. Top-weighted settlements, a little bit of a bummer, but, you know, again, here we've got somewhat of a spike in channel. Not as clean looking, definitely not as clean looking, but it's shaping up. It's trying to get there. We've got some back and forth overall movement that is giving us, again, an L5 if there was... I mean, how many bottoms is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A quintuple bottom on the L5 before rotating back up. After an L5, we anticipate seeing an L2, and we haven't really had that pullback yet. There hasn't been a decent value pullback as of yet, and that means that bulls will be waiting. So, we've got to be on the lookout for that potential follow-through on the deeper pullback to the 2. And that's back at like 3,700-ish. Oh no, I moved it. Dang it. It's around there, sure. Okay. Now, because I learned my lesson from yesterday, I am going to double, triple check that I saved my workspace. Just a reminder to everyone, save your workspace. NinjaTrader has this thing where it likes to crash and then forget everything you did. It's really fun. Anyway, looking at the start of things so far. That's right. I got rid of that too. I changed this. Put that back on. What? Why is my data stuck? Round 2. Here we go. Hang on, I'm gonna reconnect on Ninja. Something's funky. My data is not moving. Wake up. I know it's Friday, but it's not time to call it quits yet. There we go. It's alive! It's my... I'm gonna double check my Coinbase data too, just to be safe. Okay, that one's good. So, gold is getting absolutely obliterated. Very sharp and pointy and nasty and spiky, and but where is it likely pulling back to? My money's probably on 1758 to 60s. Where to pull back to last time? You know, I mean, the risk is very low, which means that the reward is very high, and that also inherently means that the probability sucks. But this dip on gold is definitely going to have the interest of a lot of traders looking for that long term. Okay, now that I know my charts are working, we've got the initial start to the day, which was a very strong cycle to the downside. Just a quick little two-legged move before rotating back up into another relatively strong cycle back to the upside. This one happened on a couple more than two, though. We've got that first kind of... I mean, this was messy. When it first broke out of this, it was really grindy. Seems like they just kind of did this to reconfirm everything and make it more obvious. But they finally got that nice little reset in the pullback, continued back up for a little while longer. And if there was a channel inside there, it would have been... I mean, that did fit across the highs pretty nicely, too. It didn't inside there, but either way, they got the break, the retest, etc. The big thing now is that we're likely in a bear cycle lower and still kind of grinding our way down. But we've got a break, and a lot of times lately, these breaks have been procuring one leg, and it's either one leg or like four. So we'll have to kind of wait and see what they want to do here, I guess, going into the open. But cyclically, that's a tough one. Makes more sense for this to... This looks similar to what happened back here, right? Where it kind of ground its way out, needs a reset. Kind of ground its way out, needs a reset. It would make a lot more sense to see it pulse back up to like the 15090s and then see sellers try to reattempt back to settlement. But the settlement's the big caveat here. If we're looking at the volume from the top to the bottom, it's smack in the middle. It's fantastic. Gross. If we go all the way over here, we've got a middle-weighted POC, and that's actually quite a bit of volume. There's a lot of volume on that 080s. If they were buyers, they didn't win any fights, that's for sure. And now they're starting to slide underneath. It just makes more sense to see possibly a pulse to the upside at the open, followed by another drop. At least the way that this is kind of going at the moment. Hey, Maurice, how's it going? Good morning, good morning. This one isn't working either. All sessions. I don't like this purple, though. But I don't think I'm using a gray. Oh, whatever, it'll work. We started the session off here on the S&P with a really, really teeny tiny little cycle. Same thing over here. I mean, it's basically copy-pasted the NASDAQ, just stretched out. But this also gives us a unique perspective that the NASDAQ does not, in that this is more of a spike in channel, which kind of started off from yesterday at around 9 o'clock. So this initial spike to the upside could be nothing more than a completionary rally to finish this move off. So we'll have to wait and see what they want to do here, but we've got a nice little pop above the top here. If they're going to be backing off 43.50 or somewhere around there, is going to be a zone of interest. Got the open in about 8.5 minutes. Crude oil catching a nice pulse to the upside here. Beautiful dip, too. Jeez. Gold got absolutely annihilated. Crude oil back up to the highs. Trying to keep things going from that bullish perspective. S&P looks like they may have a trap underneath that last low. At around 50 quarter. Longs take the pulse off 50 quarters, seeing if they can grab a scalp back to the upside before the open. Otherwise, there's not really a whole lot else going on. Crude oil poking the top, double top, and trying to push back a little bit. I found your reason yesterday for not trading crude oil very interesting. I couldn't understand how something trades in negative dollars. Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy? That scares the crap out of me. Like, oh, you want to take a 10 contract position? Yeah, you better remortgage your house. That's how much the mortgage is going to cost. I was like, nah, I'm good. No thanks. There are some risks that are worth it, and there are some that are not. Got the open right around the corner here. Still waiting to see if the S&P can finish the job. Gotten to 3. Tested the target, no fill. Welcome to the S&P. What's the margin on oil now? I think it's back to 1,000 or 2,000 again. Back in the realm of normality, but again, mentally, I'll never trade it that way. Taken out on the S&P for the objective. 5 minutes to go until the open. Not really much else going on, just small little scalps. Yes, effectively, they were paying people to take crude oil at negative dollars. Of course, if you buy it at negative $8 and it goes to negative 40, you still lost. You know, so it's like, yeah, if it can go to negative 40, what's stopping it from going to negative infinity? You know, like, geez. You got 1,000 barrels in your backyard, yeah. And they paid you for it, hey. It's like the easiest time to start an oil refinery was about 15 minutes during that period of time. Government subsidies out the yin-yang. They paid you to start the business. How's that? Bulls still trying for a little bit more continuation. Upside continuation objectives would be back up to the highs, of course. But as it stands, just, again, small little scalps for now until we go into the open. We've got about 3 minutes. 9:28's the next big period, and going into a Friday, that could be a lot bigger of a deal. Oh, man. That next top-weighted POCs where all of the longs were taking profit or shorts were coming in or whatever it was, but 52.50 right where it is. That's that top-weighted POC on the impulse. See if they can get through it. NASDAQ continuing to creep higher. That should help. There we go. Two minutes until the open. Gotten some, wow, some long-reaching wicks on the NASDAQ. Sellers are scrambling right now. They're getting a little under pressure. Bulls continuing the rotation to the upside, now fulfilling the objective of reaching the highs on the S&P. Secondary objectives are hit. The next ones are going to be above the highs. Going into the open in about a minute and a half. Man, crude oil. Oof. The euro came back to the L2 as well. S&P popping through a new high. The NASDAQ not quite there yet. It's got to play some catch-up. 1 minute until the open. Seems like gold is creating a bit of a pennant formation. The problem is this is going to be more of an algo pennant. The likelihood of this moving too quickly to actually be able to catch as a human being is a risk right now. But small little pennant forming on gold. If they can get a little attempted breakdown to the lows, it'd be a lot nicer. Retest the lows and then try to go long. Remember, we're on a -2. As far as a probability perspective is concerned, the market should, in a very high degree of probability historically, be closing above 64.7 today. Doesn't mean it has to. The S&P getting a little bit of back and forth, jittery, choppy, sloppy. A lot of traders may choose to re-enter around the previous entry point for scalps, trying to go for a little bit more, but it's going into the open. That's aggressive. So far, it's not treating them so well. Well, hang on now. NASDAQ's getting a lot of wicks up at those tops. Sellers are looking for a bit more continuation to the downside and looking to keep this in the driver's seat and press. Oh, wow. Okay. Hang on now. We've got a bit of a fight back and forth now. Gold's still stuck inside the 5-minute tweezers. NASDAQ snapping a little bit lower now, retesting settlement. As far as the S&P is concerned, I mean, none of these are looking too happy right now. S&P even has a possibility of a short, although it's way down at the bottom. Bulls trying to get a V-bottom reversal on the NASDAQ, although likely not going to do very well. Gold is attempting to break down through the lows of the pennant. S&P's continuing lower. Sheesh. NASDAQ catching a very strong bullish rebound after this fairly obvious measured leg down, AB equals CD move. I mean, at the moment, it looks like the majority of the volume's happening around settlement. Shouldn't be much of a surprise. Sellers are trying to gain some ground to the downside. Ooh, whoa. Getting some selling pressure building in off the NASDAQ a little bit here. They're trying to get this to pulse back up. Big bull bar back higher. How are they going to do it? Oh, man. This is like watching Springer back in the day, man. They're just punching each other in the face. Who's going to lose? Sellers are trying to gain continuation to the downside on the NASDAQ if they're able to get it. Nice little pulse down. My shortcut keys are still not working. Fantastic. God, that's frustrating. Okay. Hang on. Taking a detour. Razor. What are you doing? Killing me is what you're doing. Everything just flickered like it realized that it was wrong. I don't know if that means it's working now, but that does mean it's working. Fantastic. Shorts are looking for more continuation to the downside on the NASDAQ for a pulse lower. There we go. Now the hotkeys are working. Yeah! All right. Back in business. Freaking razor. Okay. Pushing back up and retesting the POC. Sellers attempting to take it down again, really only for scalp distances. 10s and 15s, that's about it. Gold! Oh man, gold. What are you doing? The purest definition of a pennant I think I've ever seen in my life. Bulls attempting to rotate back up again now that we have a... well, the sellers failed, really. The sellers tried getting it to rotate down. They got it for a scalp. But that's it. Now we've got to see who's on the wrong side here. Bottom-weighted POC down towards the lows of the range. There's a heck of a lot of wicks starting to build up on the bottom, too. Seems like buyers are trying to gobble this up. This might be a swing long back to the highs, or at least in this area. Maybe not right this second, but getting above this POC and all of these little things definitely help. The NASDAQ is bouncing all over the place, but the S&P is remaining fairly calm, all things considered. Wow, this thing is just straight barbed wire right now in the NASDAQ. Holy cow. Gold for swing longs on this dip. This is where swing longs are going to be looking for the continuation up, mainly because the risk is so incredibly small and the reward is so incredibly huge. Probability of success is very low. You're catching a falling knife still. Got a continuation pop back to a new high. S&P bulls are attempting to gain more ground back up towards the highs as well. The 50 halves, that's not a halfway bad little spot there. Interestingly enough, is about the exact same spot as before. Bulls are looking for the continuation move to the upside on the S&P as well as the NASDAQ, but pricing is the concern right now. I want as good a pricing as I can get. But that may also mean that you missed a trade. There's always that give and take. Or it doesn't pull back. That's the other option. We've got the NASDAQ continuing up. S&P also furthering its breakout. Oh, jeez. Oh. It's doing its happy jig. Got a little bit of a pulse to the downside. Big question now is this a washout, or is this time for the sellers to begin taking over? Right? There's some definitive questions here. Don't mind the laundry. Still a work in progress. Okay. Bulls are really starting to try to show up to the party here on the S&P. Nice bull bar. Trying to grab a fill on the bid. There we go. At 49.50. A lot of volatility and a lot of back and forth going on so far. Tested the target, no fill. Jesus, thing's poppy. Tested the target again, no fill. Again, no fill. Please? Thank you. Golly. Whew. Skin of my teeth. Jeez. Pulling back down now, forcing through the lows. This is a real big problem. The longs that did not get filled are going to start running for the hills, and that's a really strong bear bar that could continue that pulse down. A little too bullish for me to want to be shorting, but aggressors will have a reason here. Yeah, I mean, they immediately took it. Yeah, there it goes. So what's likely going to happen now is your typical trap formation. We've been talking about this all morning on how the market hasn't really had a very good reset. This is probably when it's going to get it now because they have people sufficiently trapped. Buyers tried getting the rotation to the upside and didn't go very far, didn't make it to a new high, possibly got trapped to the tick, 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 finally get filled. A lot of people probably didn't get filled. This is where it starts squeezing. Or at least typically in history, this is when, knowing how many people got juked on that one, this is where you start seeing it pulse down to probably the next POC around 43.50. Maybe even a little bit lower. A lot of the bulls who were buying inside of here are going to have stops underneath the 44s, but even further underneath the 41s. This creates a swing situation. Right? We've got a swing situation with stops like this. Oh, doesn't quite fit the 3-to-1 though, does it? Can we get it in a little lower? That fits the 3-to-1. No it doesn't. This is the S&P. I know if I do that, I'm not going to get filled. I would have to do this, which means that the only way to reasonably enter would be at around 44.25 from a swing perspective. Now, being that I do still want to... I still want to be able to scalp the S&P. Let's do MES over here. It's not color linked, right? Before I click this? No, it's not. Okay. What price is that? 44.44. Like any frickin' day now. Jeez. Thank you. Golly. All right, 44.44. Whoops. Oh, whatever. That should be one mini. If I did my numbers right. All right, 9:45. Market's not really doing a whole lot, really, at all. This seems like it's having some trouble. If the bulls are going to take this back to the upside, I mean, really, they kind of lost their grip, but they're going to have to make it back up above like the 70s, 71, something like that. It seems like the sellers are still basically in charge, or at least for the most part. This is, looking at least from the volume perspective, we're right on top of their challenge point, which, again, is still on top of settlement, hasn't moved. But they've got to get through here. And every time they try to get through down to the 58s, it's not working too well. Now we're just going into a bit of a wedge. Although that bear bar back to the downside, sellers may look to continue if they can trigger underneath that bear bar in the NASDAQ. Gold getting the full-blown reversal. Again, swings, like we've been talking about, swings are already long on gold on that dip underneath the lows, and that's why. That's where the risk is beneficial. So, more on the options perspective, slightly longer term. This could end up being a long that could last months, but that's the spot. These long-term swings are basically just looking to buy and hold. It's gold, right? I mean, NASDAQ demonstrating even further continuation to the upside, and the S&P is now showing that they may want to try to take this up a little further yet. We're hovering right around the POC. I mean, this is just a nasty spot. It's not getting better. The bulls are trying to take it, though. Yikes. No, you hit me first. No, you hit me first. Doesn't look like the S&P is going to give me the chance for that swing. NASDAQ's having a tough time up here. A lot of wicks. If the bulls can break through this, this is their shot. Sellers are having a heck of a time right now. Ooh, to the tick target test on the S&P. Whoa. Okay. All lower highs since then. Lower high, and now another lower high. Strong bear bar. Nice extra continuation to the upside. NASDAQ also following through with that continuation. Couldn't get the pullback on the MSE, or wow, dyslexia poked its head out there. MES, rather. No, it didn't break a high, though. Yet. We'll see. NASDAQ still feels like it's got some issues. If the sellers are going to take it, they've got to get back below settlement. And every time they've gotten below settlement, it's not really gone anywhere. It's just kind of flat on its face. S&P bulls seem like they're picking it up a notch. The 5 minutes just a wicky mess. NASDAQ dipping back to POC, while the S&P is creeping back up towards the highs. Still seems like there's a bit of pressure to the downside against these traders who are trying to get this to pop above the top. NASDAQ piercing underneath settlement for just a little bit. Okay, they're trying. Yikes. Can they get through? They're stuck on the POC again. Stuck on top of settlement. Traffic jam. Gold buyers buying the dip a little bit here. Oh, do they really? Okay. Interesting. Oh man, that wick on gold. Man, does that look tasty. Here we go again. Forget the bulls trying to continue off a settlement, looking for a rally back up on the NASDAQ. They're still stuck on the settlement. S&P is just kind of pinging around, forming a little micro pennant now. $10 o'clock around the corner, so feel free to get those questions in before we transition over into the extended session. And then we'll rock and roll over there, see if we can find anything else. So far, only scalps. And what was the beginning of the week? The 11th? And while we're going into the end of things, looking at the numbers for the week, let's see here, 58.62% accuracy, not very good accuracy this week, but the average win, average loss is a little over 1-to-1 at 1.13, and as we can see, the largest win versus largest loss is 219 versus 155. If we're looking at the overall math here, 58.62 minus 100 times the average loss of 58. Okay. 58.62 times the average win of 65 minus 2,400.04. That is the math for the week. So again, even though this week looks totally different than last was, up in the 70s, a lot more scalping, etc. This one's a lot more laid back, a lot more building in for positions and swings because we are in zones of interest. The accuracy reflects that, but you can also see the math is still demonstrating that it was just a really fairly normal to positively, good week. So again, just another week where nothing really out of the norm, nothing crazy, straightforward. A little bit more on the swing side. And here we sit. Okay. Market's pushing into more of a calm and quiet, slow period here. If we look over on the crypto side of things, Bitcoin is rallying above 60,000 now and catching a beautiful pop to the upside. Fantastic. What a move! Let's take a look at some of these other... over there. There we go. Okay. So obviously, as people are taking profit on SHIB and some of these other coins, they're pumping it into other things like Bitcoin. Kind of makes sense. Just like when, anyway, there's a lot of correlations underlying inside here once you start realizing them. But when you're looking at Bitcoin, we've got this continuation all the way back up. If we zoom out to a much larger time frame, looking at the daily, we can see where we're at. Right? We're very close to all-time highs. All-time highs are 64,854. Depends on the exchange that you're looking at, of course. The one I'm looking at is Binance, but that is the high for Binance. It's 64,854. We've got about 4,000 to go, 4,500 to go, which for Bitcoin is nothing. That's like a day or two. It can cover that easily. So we're in striking distance from the all-time highs. That's a big deal because this is something that hasn't happened before. Remember, we've been talking about historically on Bitcoin, we get this pullback, it pauses, goes close to the highs, and this is why I'm very concerned up here, goes very close to the highs, and then drops 80% down to the lows. That's my concern right now, right? If this can break the highs and go to a new all-time high, they have completely mitigated all historical data. We are in brand new, fresh territory that's never happened. Or this is only the first pullback in a significantly larger squeeze. And that larger pullback is going to happen later. And then we're talking back, 6-7 months ago, and we were talking about Bitcoin in the, 150s to 300,000 range, or at least 100,000 easily. That's where that comes from. And you can kind of see this is what they do over and over and over again. They have that initial pulse, and it kind of goes and goes and goes, and then it does this. And then it can rinse and repeat later in time. So, I mean, if it does that, that is telling us that we are not in the phase that we thought we were in. And if that's the case, that opens the door for Bitcoin to 3x itself, let alone some of the others. Freaking crazy. So, I mean, we're coming into some serious times right now on crypto. This is absolutely insane. Some of the others that I really love paying attention to while I was doing this is Binance. One of them that we were talking about, I think I actually posted this on the YouTube community board for you YouTube members out there. We were talking about Binance in the 404.60s to 395.30s, and it bounced out of there just phenomenally. Rallied all the way up to 482. So, I mean, just that zone, just that area. I know these moves are like, oh, well, it doesn't really look that big. These are incredible. I mean, if you're looking at the bounds here, just up to the highs, that's an 18, 19, almost 20%, depending on where you got in. I mean, the potential here is absolutely crazy where you see these different locations. And Binance is one of my favorites. These utility coins like that, Binance, Crow, Nexo, any of those coins that have, especially if they have an in-house exchange or something, those are the ones that I really love watching. They go crazy. Another one that also goes crazy is Maker. Maker goes nuts. MKR goes freaking crazy. If Bitcoin has moved, but Maker hasn't, chances are Maker's going to catch up in a huge way. And this is one that I was planning on throwing on the YouTube community side, but I guess since I'm talking about it, we'll just throw it here anyway. I'll have to find a different idea for you, YouTube members. Sorry. We've got this really big zone of interest where when Bitcoin rallies, Maker usually follows close behind, but the difference is the ROI differences are crazy because Maker's back at 2,500. So if it does want to catch up and rally up, you're talking 127% where it is now. I mean, bonkers. And that's not including the fact that if it does make it up to another new high and follows Bitcoin to another top, then it... holy cow. Anyway, I'll save some of the other charts for when we go into the YouTube member side of things. I don't want to give away too much, but just basically feeling like we're on the precipice of some seriously huge movement is really what I'm getting at. And I'll look at Nexo and a couple other ones. Would be nice to see Nexo where BNB is now. Yeah. And it's setting up very similarly, right? That's the thing, and the same goes for Crow, which is what looked like Nexo did a couple years, or a couple months back. It's all like they're fractals of one another. It's like they've broken off and have went back in time. Anyway, we're after 10 o'clock. I'm not seeing any other questions coming in on the YouTube side of things, so let's transition over into the member side and VIP side. For those of you who are ducking out for the rest of the week, side note, canceling my micro trade, didn't get the pullback. For those of you who are ducking out over the weekend, hopefully you had a fantastic week of trading. And like we always say going into the weekend, we make more decisions than most people make in a week in one day. we've got to take some mental rest and really get a break over the weekend so you can come back ready to rock and roll on Monday. So if you're going to be ducking out, enjoy the weekend, rest up, and we'll see you all back on Monday. For those of you that are going to continue hanging out in the extended session and VIP room, then stay tuned. Listen to me babble to myself for a minute, and we'll go from there. So enjoy the weekend. Have a great one, and we will talk to you all later. For the rest of you, stay tuned. Have a good one. We'll talk to you all later. Thanks.